From being stranded alone on a desert island to being locked in your home during a global pandemic, isolation takes a major toll on mental health. Even with the knowledge we have today on the effects of isolation, the United States government still chooses to lock prisoners away in solitary confinement, knowing that they will come out more mentally unstable than ever before. Solitary confinement has done a great job of keeping dangerous criminals separated from others in order to prevent conflict in prisons. However, it is detrimental for the mental health of these prisoners. I have always noticed how spending time in isolation takes a toll on my own mental health, and these past few weeks of extensive research leads me to believe that this is no coincidence at all. The United States should discontinue the use of solitary confinement in order to curb the cruel effects of isolation and loneliness. In order to curb these negative effects of solitary confinement, I will first show you how isolation takes a toll on mental health. Next, I will explain how these effects harm prisoners and curbs their advancement into becoming a functional part of society in the future. Finally, I will offer solutions about how to keep prisoners and guards safe from dangerous criminals without damaging mental health and helping these criminals make a comeback to a healthy, crime-free lifestyle. Now, contrary to popular belief, solitary confinement is more harmful than helpful. Living in isolation takes a major toll on mental health. In fact, it actually changes the structure of the human brain. Elena Blanco Suarez, PhD, states that one of the most remarkable effects of chronic social isolation, as in the extreme case of solitary confinement, is the decrease in the size of the hippocampus, the brain region related to learning, memory, and spatial awareness. This proves that solitary confinement curbs prisoners' advancement into a functional lifestyle since their brain chemistry is changed so deeply. Prisoners locked away from the real world are faced with deteriorating hope. Not only do they not get better, but they get worse, Fatigue says. When you go into these units, and I've been into many of them, you find people screaming uncontrollably, people losing their minds, people cutting off pieces of themselves, trying to kill themselves. While criminals are in jail, they should have the option to strive towards a second chance at leading a healthy, crime-free lifestyle through support regarding mental illness, substance abuse, therapy, education, self-support, and productivity. Now that we have observed how isolation affects the human mind, let's look into how solitary confinement affects a prisoner's advancement back into the real world. Even after prisoners gain release or have served their sentence in solitary, they lack the skills and ability to function in the real world. Frank De Palma, a former prisoner of solitary confinement, describes his 22 years spent in isolation. My memories of my real life started to fade. I began shutting everything out. I didn't feel anymore, I just went away. I literally forgot that I had a family. There was no day or night. That emptiness, nothingness, became my whole life. After spending his time in solitary, De Palma's life turned to complete emptiness. He no longer felt as if he served a purpose, and all of his memories and values faded away. Brian Nelson is another victim of solitary confinement's cruel effects. After spending 12 years in isolation, he lost the ability to deal with social situations entirely. I'm standing there and a guy walked behind me, and I'm not used to people being that close to me. And I started cussing. I turned around, I'm ready to fight because I thought, I don't know if he's going to attack me, Nelson recalls. I had prison mentality in my mind, and then I looked up and saw my mom crying, like, oh my God, what have they done to him? Without social skills, a person will be faced with major challenges everywhere they go. If the person resorts to aggression, it is no doubt they will find themselves back in prison more hopeless than ever before. Ultimately, solitary confinement results in irreversible, severe damage to one's mental health and ability to function when returned to society. So now, let's look at some effective alternatives. Of course, dangerous criminals are a major threat to both prisoners and guards. However, forcing them into isolation creates a new kind of threat. Both threats may be avoidable entirely. In the article, Alternatives to Solitary Confinement and Segregated Housing, Sarah Vanag states that solitary confinement should never be a first option and provides a series of highly effective alternatives that have been used successfully in some facilities. Instead of using solitary, facilities have shown success in dealing with infractions by temporarily removing privileges. Similarly, facilities have shown success in rewarding positive behavior with more privileges and even providing early release to those who willingly participate in pro-social activities such as anger management and problem-solving programs. These alternative solutions have shown success in several facilities and should be used throughout all prison facilities in the United States. The United States should be making every effort to refrain from throwing prisoners into solitary confinement. Now, we can take action by rewarding positive behavior, punishing poor conduct, making units safer with increased security, providing support to the prisoners returned to the real world, and making sure they have the sources they need to come back to a healthy lifestyle. Therapy, education, anger management, and problem-solving programs should always be available to prisoners in order to better themselves and regain hope. Today, we have looked at the ways in which solitary confinement deteriorates the well-being of prisoners. In order for citizens like you and me to make an effort to urge the United States to change laws regarding solitary confinement, we can start by encouraging victims of solitary confinement to speak up, demanding that our local officials rethink solitary, donating to prisoner rights organizations, and questioning our governors. In an ideal world, people will not commit crimes. However, this is the real world, and as a society, we should be making every effort to give all people basic rights and make use of alternative solutions to the detrimental effects of solitary confinement. Thank you.